Welcome to 2024, and what a great new year it's already been, thanks to Pokemon, who gave us a lot of fun things to do on the lead up to the new year. Yeah, and that fun came in the form of the Indigo Disk DLC, the second DLC for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Honestly, I've talked about the Indigo Disk a little bit already on this channel, as you've seen, but we avoided spoilers up until now, so what better way to ring in the new year than to do a spoiler cast on the Indigo Disk? There are a lot of fun things packed in this DLC that we still need to talk about, so without further ado, we are joined by Cayla from Cayla's Capsule. Everyone give a warm welcome.
Hello, my name's Cayla, this is Cinnamon Peaches and Sage, and I'm so excited to talk about all the spoilery things from the Indigo Disk.
Yes, I'm so excited. We've been holding this in for all this time, and you especially, you were trying to zip it and keep it zipped.
I'm not gonna spoil anything.
And I feel justified in us not spoiling anything last week because I'm seeing some prominent figures on like Twitter and stuff that did not finish till this week. So I'm like, okay, good. I'm not the only one.
Yeah, not a lot of time left too. Like we've got more Pokemon coming out soon. So.
Yep, the epilogue, which we will be talking about later this week. So today though, to talk about the spoiler stuff that we want to talk about, let's go ahead and start with something really meaty, and that is the Blueberry Academy's League. Cayla, who's your favorite?
You know my favorite.
Tell it to the crowd. Tell it to the crowd.
Lacey, of course. No, as soon as we started seeing her personality, I was just like, this is me. This is exactly who I was, especially growing up, like as a kid. I was always just like, not right. Like, very much a rule follower, very much a like, I like cute things, but I also like fighting. And so she's me, basically. But yeah, I'm definitely, I'm growing my hair out.
Oh,
and
really?
dyeing it pink.
Oh, you're gonna do it.
I'm literally going to just become her. That's my goal in life now because she's that awesome. I got little hair clips and I'm gonna get the little gems and I'm just gonna become her.
I love that.
None of this is a lie, by the way.
Good.
None of this is an exaggeration in any way, shape, or form.
I'm excited for the cosplay pictures and videos and for you to just be on YouTube and just like looking like Lacey.
Just be her.
Someone can draw like a
goal.
Lacey icon that's you, and you have that as like a little.
Oh my gosh! I should get a big Gramble plushie and just like
yes,
use it as a pillow.
We'll make that your new like YouTube banner and everything. It's like you. Someone draws you as Lacey sleeping on a Gramble or something like that.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
With Cinnamon Peaches and Sage just there like.
Yeah, jealous Cinnamon Peaches
like,
and Sage. I love that. Yeah. I fell in love with Lacey's personality almost immediately. And I messaged you about it. I was like, listen, I'm not that far into the DLC, but Lacey is queen. and you were like, I love her. I love everything about her.
I
was
much.
like, yeah. And you know, you're right. She is a lot like you, which explains why I like her personality, right? Because you and I obviously get along. But I actually do have a favorite that's not Lacey, though. There is someone who beat her. I have
a feeling I know yours too.
There's someone who beat her.
So many people like this character. It's him, isn't it?
I'm sorry. And you know what's funny? I usually like female characters more. And I'm surprised that I liked a male character more. But yes, Drayton was my favorite out of the new Elite Four. And can anyone blame me? He was a driving force in this narrative. In the best way possible. Like, you know what? You know what it is? He's a lot like me. So you're a lot like Lacey. I'm a lot like Drayton. Where like
That's fair, actually.
Yeah.
Honestly, how many times are you like, and then I'm like, Johnny.
And you know, like I'm slightly mischievous, but in a very calm and relaxed way. Like,
yes, yeah, like, you're not like over the top, like you're not like, you're not a villain or anything like that.
Exactly.
Like, Drayton's not a villain, but he does have a mischievous streak.
Right, and like I'm very non-caring, but also I care a lot at the same time, and I think he's very similar in that regard.
Oh, yeah,
like we care about things that matter. But we don't care about things that we don't think should matter, Like, everyone shouldn't be so serious. But at the same time, this guy over here has been a jerk to everyone. And we should probably, like, plot something to put him in his place.
Yeah, especially to Drayton. He's been extra of a jerk to Drayton. And I feel like people are missing that detail. I know I have a video coming out on it eventually because I feel like there's something that Kieran says and does that I'm like, oh, he's got it out for Drayton specifically. It's not like he's like bullying everybody. He's bullying Drayton specifically. So I'm excited to talk about that more.
We got to stay tuned for that because I want to see that. Yeah. But I wonder if it has to do with the fact that Drayton was the best before Kieran, right? Like that
might be why, but that's not what. Oh. That's not what is happening, but it might be why. Yeah.
I'm very curious to hear what it is that you found then, because I don't
everybody
know.
Online. I haven't found a single person who's talked about it yet. I posted about it online, and people were going crazy. They were like, "What is it? What is it?" And I'm like, "Guys, it's right there."
It's got to be it's probably some dialogue when you invite people to the clubhouse, right? I'm assuming that. Oh, really?
Nope.
Okay.
You don't have to beat the game to see it.
All right, you're just going to blow all our minds with the most obvious thing that was in front of our faces and we just didn't notice.
That is exactly what it is. Yeah. Yep, it's right in front of your faces. Everyone's faces. Everyone saw it. It's there.
That's so
It's not
funny.
hidden. It's right in your face.
So we should give some love to the other two Blueberry Academy Elite Four because they were also really good characters. I particularly did really like the fire one. What was their name?
Crispin.
Crispin.
Yeah, Crispin.
I don't know, like their enthusiasm really was something I enjoyed.
And innocence too. Like Crispin has such an innocence to him. Well, no, because he doesn't understand what's going on. He doesn't. He's like, yeah, that was a good fight, and it's like Crispin. Dude.
I will say he also Crispin and what was the other woman's name? Amaris. They gave me the most trouble in the fights.
Really?
From the Elite Four. Yes, I had no problem with Drayton. And I surprisingly had no problem with Lacey, even though she almost whooped me with those 3 electric Pokemon. No, the 2 electric Pokemon and the 1 ground type when I first came to the academy. But her Elite Four battle wasn't nearly as hard for some reason. It's like I don't have overleveled. So? Yeah, I don't have overleveled mine, and I also
you have a lot of like baby Pokemon.
Yes, like I don't evolve my Pokemon. I don't overlevel them, and I didn't really have trouble with her or Drayton, but. The other two, Crispin and how do you say her name?
Amaris gave me a little trouble. She was tough. She had Trick Room.
Yes.
She had Trick Room.
Yes.
And she used it well.
She used it really well. It was tough. And that Skarmory, Skarmory's whole tactic of just laying out the spikes and then whirlwinding you to death was...
Yep.
I feel like I've seen that before, but I've never seen anyone use it quite to that extent. And I swear that her Skarmory must have had an item that made the spikes hurt more. Because my spikes don't be hurting that much. I used the same one.
Did Skarmory use spikes twice?
No. He used it. It's not spikes that he used. It was the other one. What's it called?
Oh, the rocks?
Yes, yeah.
Did you send out a Pokemon that's weak to rock?
No. It's just it did extra damage. I'm pretty sure there's an item that actually makes moves like spikes and stealth rock do extra damage. And I think she had it on her Skarmory. I could be wrong. I don't know. But I swear they were doing more damage. I don't know how she did it. Maybe it's based on attack stat. I have no idea.
I don't know.
Regardless, that gave me trouble. I had to really figure out a strategy to get around that Skarmory. Like, to one-shot you couldn't one-shot it because it had sturdy. So I had to double team the Skarmory first round and do it in a way that her other Pokemon would not kill my other Pokemon. And I had to do it faster than their Skarmory. So there was just a lot put into that. And like, I really enjoyed the fact that every battle in this DLC was double battles because I love that. I love strategy, and Pokemon for me, like the strategy is mostly in the double battles for me, like that I enjoy. I don't really enjoy the strategy in single battles quite as much.
Yeah, I think too, like you usually play Pokemon because like you play with your favorites.
Yes.
And you haven't really dived into the competitive scene as much.
Right.
So I think that I feel like this game has been designed to get people slowly into competitive because you have your base game, which has classes on how to play competitive. You have Ogerpon, which has so many options and is competitively very good. So it's like, okay, what? And you feel encouraged to try Ogerpon out.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I went through this whole thing. And now it's like, okay, I have this competitively viable Pokemon. What mask do I pick? How do I navigate that? Like all the different things. And then finally in this DLC, it was like, hey, you know what's the actual format for competitive battles? Doubles. You know, held items? Let's use those. You know, strategy? We'll have that too. And so it kind of felt like this natural progression of like, this is how competitive works.
Yeah, that's a good point because, okay, Sword and Shield did that a little bit. I enjoyed some strategy from Sword and Shield because the way that it, you know, introduced certain things. Like there's an NPC that you fight that has like a focus sash and then uses a move that mimics what their HP is to your Pokemon, no matter how powerful your Pokemon is.
Yes.
So like things like that I thought were interesting in that game. But this game, you're right, it did a better job of that. And on top of that, the Pokemon that they've reintroduced, especially since the DLCs come out, are very competitively interesting Pokemon. So like Mineor is really interesting. I don't think it's like that good, but you know, it has a cool mechanic. It has a cool mechanic, the shields down mechanic. But there's Pokemon that take that to more of an extreme, like Ice-Q and Mimikyu. And it's cool.
I don't
It's a cool
know
mechanic.
if you've seen, but the tier list, like there's rankings for different Pokemon. And like never used, rarely used, underused, like all sorts of different ones.
Right.
And they just I think they just came out today, the day that we're recording this, and everybody got like moved around like crazy with this DLC, like way more than the introduction of the Teal Mask. So
I believe it.
If you guys are competitive players out there and you're playing the next season, it's gonna be wild. It's gonna be crazy. If you haven't played competitive, I highly recommend just giving it a try because it's just gonna be fun.
I really love the Pokemon they brought back in this DLC, particularly the second DLC. It's a really good lineup of Pokemon they brought in, both for casual players and for competitive players, and I love that. So yeah, much love to all four of the Blueberry Academy's Elite Four. As for the personalities, we said that we like Crispin's a lot for the enthusiasm and innocence. For Emerus, that's her name, right?
Yeah.
She's like very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Serious.
Yes, and it like really
so serious.
It really matched how much trouble she gave me in the battle because she was not messing around. She wasn't messing around in the story, and she wasn't messing around in the battle, and I loved that. I'm glad they had a character like that.
Me too. I love how she's so serious, but she also has a soft side to her.
Yeah.
Like, she's worried about Kieran. That's her whole thing, that she's worried about Kieran. And I don't know if you've talked to her in the club room yet, or I don't know if you've talked to any of these guys in the club room yet, but they have like dialogue that suggests like they have crushes on certain other characters.
Oh.
And it's just like,
Who's she have a crush on?
Huh?
Who's she have a crush on?
Who do you think she has a crush on if she's
Emerus?
worried about a certain...
Kieran?
Yeah, who do you think... Yeah!
Oh, because I know
Oh yeah, no, it's so cute. You're gonna have to look at the cutscene because she's like, I am feeling an unusual reaction in my heart. What is this feeling so sudden and new?
I know that she mentioned feeling bad after we beat her about how she didn't do more to help Kieran. And I like that she had a slight character arc in that regard. She was like you can tell she's trying to fight past being so hardened, you know, like her steel types. Like she's trying to fight past being so hardened as a person, and I appreciated that touch that they gave. They've been really good with characters this entire game, I'll be honest, but none of them have been quite as enthralling as Kieran. And I think that we should probably use this as a segue to talk about Mr. Man's character arc because I had so many different a roller coaster of emotions for this character.
Oh yeah, what were your because I feel like I've been very vocal online about my feelings about Kieran and his arc at the beginning, at least. What was your feelings.
Okay,
about
so you want to
Kieran.
hear mine? Okay, I
Yeah.
have a lot. So let me start from the beginning. Let's talk about in the teal
You're like,
mask.
let's go.
From the teal mask, you know, I was introduced to him. I felt like he was one of those characters that just was gonna be. It felt like they were supposed to be another throwaway character, but I, for some reason, kind of found them endearing from the get-go, and like people around me weren't feeling that way that I was talking about the game with. They were like, "No, he's kind of boring. Like he's annoying," and I was like, "I think he's kind of endearing. Like he's just doing his own thing, and like we're all here together doing our things and like aligning in the same direction, and he's not intruding. He doesn't come in with pointless dialogue. Like he was having his own thoughts, and he would come interject like his thoughts on the matter and then go. Never overextended his stay. And then like you get towards the end of the teal mask and he starts, I don't know, getting a little more frantic. And I noticed too, like me personally, because again, I don't overlevel my Pokemon and I don't use that strong Pokemon. His team got really strong, even in the teal mask, to fight against me. And I did almost have trouble with him towards the end, like not quite, but almost there. And I was like, okay, I gotta watch out for this man. Like he could have been a real threat. So to my surprise, Kieran and his sister come back in the second DLC, and there's like a time skip, and he looks and acts even older. And I told you this last week, but he was.
You must have predicted
crazy.
it somewhat, though, from
trailers.
The ending of the teal mask. And the ending of the teal mask, he's like freaking out. Do you remember the cutscene?
I feel like I remember something, but I wasn't sure like what they were gonna do with that. If it was gonna have to do with him or something else that may have been affecting him. I don't know. But yeah, when the trailers confirmed that, I was like, oh wow, this is interesting that they're bringing these characters back again. And I wanted to see that. So when I went into the Blueberry Academy, Mr. Mans was crazy. And I talked to you about this last week, about how he was mad crazy. I felt like at the time.
You just saw him last time we talked.
Yeah. And like his animations and his dialogue were just so unhinged. And I found that I found it kind of jarring because like I didn't see that shift from the teal mask, but I thought it was a cool thing to do over the time skip. And even more to my surprise was that he turned out to be the champion. And I was like, I knew that Mr. Mans had some potential because he made me scared at the end of the teal mask. So to find out that he's actually the champion at the Blueberry Academy now made a lot of sense to me, because I noticed that his team got really good at the end. So I wanted to see what his new team was, and I wanted to see him interact with these new people and then see him what he's going to do when I put him in his place. And so, you play through the Blueberry Academy, you see him treating everyone like dirt, including me, which, hello, I did nothing but save you up until now. Sure, I took your Mon, but your Mon chose me. I didn't take your Mon.
Yeah, no, you didn't take her.
I didn't take her.
She chose you.
She chose me, right. So, c'est la vie, sir. So you don't, you got to earn your way there. And when I put him in his place, at the very end of the league, and he started reverting back to his teal mask persona, where he's getting frantic again, and he's not the unhinged crazy that he was at the beginning of Blueberry Academy. He's just like distraught now. But it's great because we immediately go into the next phase, which is, when the Terapagos storyline, which we'll talk about more later, that part in depth. But right now I just want to talk about Kieran. And I loved how he was forced to work with us for that right after losing to me. And it was interesting to see his character, like, he was acting like himself again, trying not to act like himself again.
Yes.
But he was, as we're going through there. And then when he, like, did that thing with Terapagos where he wanted to just, like, take it. And it was so, the lore behind Legendaries is that they choose who they want to stay with for a set period of time, right? They didn't choose him. He was a Master Ball. And I felt bad for Terapagos. And, you see it in Terapagos' behavior right after, because Terapagos loses control. And then again, when
did it make you think about all the times you've used a Master Ball?
It did.
Whether the Pokemon actually wanted to be with you.
Yes.
Because now I feel kind of guilty.
I feel guilty.
Like any time I've ever used a Master Ball. It's like, oh, like especially because I was thinking back to a Pokemon. I think it was Champao that I was trying to catch, and I was really struggling. And I'm pretty sure I caught it with a Master Ball because otherwise it was gonna faint. And I'm like, oh, did it not want to be my Pokemon? Like, sorry.
Now I will say, the lore is still not broken in that regard because, as we see, they can just break the Master Ball that they're in. And that kind of feeds hand in hand with the lore that like they choose to be with you for a set amount of time. Any legendary, right? Yeah. So if they ever feel the need,
with him for a short amount of time.
Exactly. So you see that in real time.
Because realistically, the legendary didn't know him, and it's like, oh, okay, here's this kid. Okay, whatever, fine. And then the kid is like, battle Terapagos, and Terapagos is like, okay. Terapagos gets its butt kicked, and then he's like, terrestrialize anyway. It's like, of course Terapagos is going to be like, no.
It doesn't trust that trainer, and as it shouldn't. And we're going to talk about a moment that happens in that whole segment later because it's really funny. And it doesn't have to do specifically with Kieran. That's why I want to wait till later to talk about it. But to finish up my thoughts on Kieran, I loved how they summed him up on him finally accepting, like, yes, he's not the hero in this story. Like, we are. And we earned it every step of the way, and he had to have seen that. The moment it broke out of the Master Ball, all of that, he had to see why we are the ones who the legendaries are attracted to. It's because of the way we treat the Pokemon and act. And no Pokemon game has ever showed it in this detail until now. They've never showed in such detail how the Pokemon choose us. You know, we see it with Miraidon and Koraidon at the beginning. We see it with the Teal Mask, what's it called, Ogerpon. And we see it with Terapagos. That's 3 different legendaries we see that happen with. And then we see them actively break out of a Master Ball when they don't want to be with that trainer. And it's crazy.
What I liked, too, was that they didn't present being the main character as just, like, a positive thing. Because the main character is constantly in danger.
Yes.
We go through, like, they're always talking about, like, I don't want to put you in danger, small child. Oh, we're going to have to put you in danger again, small child, because the legendaries chose you.
Yep.
Right? Like, you don't see Nimona there, you don't see Arven there, you don't see Penny there, the legendaries didn't choose them. And so, because we are... Oh, hi, Nami.
Oh, because what a treat.
The legendary chose me.
The legendary kitty.
The legendary cat. Nami, what you doing, buddy? But, yeah, so because the legendary chose the player character, in addition to, like, being able to do all this cool stuff and battle well, also is put in very dangerous situations. And I think Kieran kind of has this moment of realization for the things that he does have. Like, he has his sister. How lucky is he for that? Like, and she, even though, like, sometimes they would argue, like, she clearly cares about him a lot. Mm-hmm. So,
I think he also realized he didn't want to be in danger.
Yeah, like, it's not his life.
Mm-hmm.
His life isn't to be in danger all the time, and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, certain things just line up for certain archetypes of people, and people like our main character in Pokemon games who are willing to thrust themselves into danger like that, they get, they reap the rewards of, the legendaries treating them as worthy partners. Yeah. So
I liked too that, because I always had this theory, because they're living, like Carmine and Kieran live with their grandparents. Their parents are nowhere to be seen. And I always felt some sympathy for them because I'm like, okay, Carmine is basically raising her brother. That's really hard to do when you're still a kid.
Yeah.
Like, what's the deal with that? And so when you go in Carmine's room, there's photographs on the wall. And if you notice, it looks like it's her with her parents, but Kieran isn't in any of them. And Carmine is a small child in all of those pictures.
Oh, so you think they died before Kieran was
they either died or were on an evil team or something, like where they got like arrested or something, but they're not around. For whatever reason, it seems like their parents are not around. And they did that really subtly by having them live with their grandparents and then showing those photos in Carmine's room. And I haven't seen any dialogue about it, but I think it's pretty clear now that their parents are just not in the picture. And that's like probably a big reason why they have that sibling dynamic and why Kieran probably feels so vulnerable and feels that need to like go and get power.
Yeah. There's so much to unpack with this character. This is why I think he's like one of the most interesting.
Characters.
Yeah. They've done such a good job. And like I said, I think he is the apex of their character development skills that they've implemented in recent games.
I like too, from the moment you meet him, the reason he says he likes Ogerpon is because Ogerpon is strong enough to take on opponents on its own without the help of others.
Right.
That's his whole thing, is he wants to be strong and not need other people, probably because he couldn't rely on his parents.
Yeah.
He had to be like, I gotta rely on myself.
Yeah.
And that's like so like heart-wrenching and sad and like
and he probably
real,
didn't
though.
Yeah, and he probably didn't want to throw it all on Carmine, which he probably was having to do up until that point, you know, growing up with her.
Yeah, he was dependent on her, and she also would like put it in his face of like, don't be dependent, and he's like, I'm a kid.
I get his perspective because like it's like myself and my older sister. My mom left a lot of raising me in her hands, and you know, my sister and I grew close, and I felt really bad for how much my sister had to do for me, like whenever she had to buy me food and things like that, you know? And I always just wanted to give back to her. And even to this day, I still have not been able to. And, you know, I feel bad about that. And like, I understand Kieran's view of that too, because I've experienced that in real life as well.
Yeah, I feel like I'm an older sister. So, like, Carmine is very relatable for me personally.
Right.
I remember looking after my brother and, like, him getting, like, bullied and things like that and me having to stand up for him. And, you know, like, I understand what it's like to be like, oh, I gotta protect my sibling against other people and not know when it's like, okay, my sibling can protect themselves and I need to step back.
Right,
Like, that's a hard thing to figure out.
Yeah, I agree. There's like two sides to it, and both sides have struggles in relatability, for sure.
Right.
So, I think that sums up our thoughts on Kieran pretty well. And if people want to know more, they can look at our Twitters.
I also have like videos on Kieran and Carmine where I like go through every single line of dialogue that they say. So
yeah, you have like
from
villain arc
Teal
explained.
Mask. I haven't done Indigo Disk yet, but Teal Mask, if you want to know where they've been, not where they're going, that exists. So
yeah, for some more in-depth character study, I am so down. I've seen those videos of yours already, but like everyone else got to see them too. So
they were fun.
Let's use that to segue us actually to the Area Zero mission, because there was a few things that I wanted to talk about outside of Kieran that we do there that I found really interesting. So, as we know, after you beat the Blueberry Academy League and put Kieran back in his place, you and Kieran and Carmine are all like told to go to Area Zero with Miss Briar for Gita, and we're expeditioning underneath where we've been before at Area Zero. Now we get there, and did anyone...
Wait, before we get there, pause for a second, because did anybody else expect us to actually get an Indigo Disk? Because I did not expect us to actually get an item that was a literal disc, and it was called the Indigo Disk.
You know what's weird?
That was shocking to me.
There are 3 Indigo Disks in the game. There's the disc, there's the terrarium that you go in is a disc shape.
Oh, yeah, that is true. That is an Indigo Disk.
Yes. And
Yeah.
then you
Terapagos.
and then Terapagos is called the Indigo Disk Pokemon.
Yeah.
And then you get an Indigo Disk item.
Yeah.
And I just like the pun of them with the Indigo Disk is just like, it's so strong. I found it really funny.
Right. It should be the Indigo Discs.
Yes. Indigo
There's
Disc.
a bunch of them.
Or just Indigo Disk. No, it is Indigo Disk. It's not the Indigo Disk, right? Or is it the Indigo Disk?
Indigo Disc.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
I
they
guess
did it.
It doesn't have
that can be
the-
interpreted as plural then.
Yeah, that could
Yeah.
be plural.
That's pretty funny. Okay, so yeah, I didn't expect us to get it as an item, no, but like I also wasn't shocked because I'm like, okay, they're just Indigo Discs everywhere now. So okay, then we end up using the Indigo Disc to get in there, and nothing really happens until you get to Terapagos. But up until then, I will say,
I disagree.
oh, do you have something to say?
I think a ton happens before we get there.
Oh, okay, all right, you explain then.
At least a ton happened for me personally.
Okay.
This is not lore. This
Okay.
is just my life and my experience.
Wait, you're talking about in real life or in the game for you? So yeah.
It's a little bit of both. So, I have a fear of endless spaces that just go down infinitely or up space.
Oh.
That's a huge fear for me, just a huge phobia. I can't play Subnautica.
Oh my God,
a lot of
Subnautica.
space games. I can't play Subnautica.
It's scary.
I can't even watch it. I can't play like No Man's Sky. I wanted to play No Man's Sky so bad because I love space.
That one
in
makes you
general.
scared?
Like, I love. Oh yeah.
Is it like Subnautica? Is it
so-
scary like Subnautica too? Or is it just
Yes,
the
because
phobia of yours?
It's the same phobia. It's like
Okay.
it just is an endless empty space. So I'm playing No Man's Sky and I'm determined. I know it's gonna trigger my phobia. And I'm going off the first planet and I get to the point where you can see space and I freak out and I go right back down. And so it took me about like a dozen times before I could get into space. And then the entire time I screamed. The entire time. I'm just flying from one planet to another, just like,
So then, how many attempts did it take you to go down with the Indigo Disc into the crystal tunnels?
I'm so glad I filmed it too, because I'm just like screaming. We have to jump from those little platforms, right? Those platforms in down
Yeah,
in
you go
Area
down
Zero.
and you go down a spiral too at some point. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm not exaggerating. This is like a legitimate fear. And so I'm jumping from platform to platform and I'm just screaming. Because I'm so scared.
I need to go watch this Let's Play of yours because that's really funny.
So I'm just jumping around and I'm like, the whole time. And it's funny now because like I know it's not a very rational fear for me to be afraid for my fictional character's life.
Sure, yeah.
But
Although with Subnautica,
triggers my
I get scared in
phobia.
Subnautica, but that has legitimately scary stuff packed into it. So
yeah, so that was my experience of Area Zero.
okay, all right. So let's say you're not Cayla and you make it down there with no problem
Yes.
whatsoever.
It's a quick, easy, very simple.
Did you find the
bad
hidden
at all.
passageway down there?
I haven't yet.
Okay.
The one that requires flying?
No,
with,
so there's
like, items?
maybe, but there's maybe there's another one I don't know about, but there's one like path blocked by crystals down there that you have to find another hidden terrestrialized Pokemon to unlock that, and you get this secret room. Did you find that?
No.
Oh, okay. If anyone's watching this right now, which I say that I hope you're watching this right now, but, whoever's watching this right now, there is a secret passageway down there that you can unlock by finding a secret terrestrialized stellar type Pokemon that you can use to unlock some crystals that you might not have otherwise found the key to. And there's a room there with a bunch of goodies that you can get.
Oh, okay. I've heard of that room. I didn't know
Okay.
you had to fight a stellar one. I thought you had to fly.
No, I don't think so.
Can you
Unless
you
there's
can just
another one
get
that I
it?
don't know about. Yeah, you have to just beat a stellar type. I did it on my first playthrough down there.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I didn't see that.
Yeah. So there's that. And then, okay, now we're at Terapagos. and at Terapagos, what I love, other than just watching Kieran freak out trying to pull the thing, was that when he pulls Terapagos out, Terapagos immediately wakes up, sees us, and imprints on us. As if
so
we're
perfect.
like its parent. And he
It's so
immediately...
perfect too, because that's what turtles do when they hatch, is they immediately crawl to the ocean. They just know where the ocean is, and they immediately crawl to it. So it was like a reference to turtles, but it was also, we're the ocean. That's what we are. We're the Indigo Disk.
We're the Indigo Disk. The fourth Indigo Disk.
The fourth Indigo Disk, no. But Terapagos just wakes up and it just does what baby turtles do. And it crawls in the direction it's supposed to crawl in.
And that's what made it all the more satisfying to see Kieran freak out and say no and throw a Master Ball at Terapagos. He knew that Terapagos had in that moment chosen us as their person, and he did not want that happening with a second legendary Pokemon. And I just love that also blew up in his face because he wanted Terapagos for all the wrong reasons. And that scene was just...
He wanted it just for power.
Yep.
And when he saw like, oh, it's tiny and it isn't actually fighting the way that I thought it would, he's like...
He was about to throw it away.
What? Yeah, he's like kind of disappointed. He's like, is this not the Pokemon that I was supposed to get? Like,
he wasn't even happy that the Pokemon was his now. Like, he was just mad that it wasn't powerful. And
it's like, you just got this epic turtle in the depths of the world that no one has ever been to. You have the only one of these in the world that we know of. Like, dude, well, that's cool.
I guess in this timeline. But actually,
we know of.
I have questions for you about that later, actually. But
yeah.
So yeah, that was really mostly what I wanted to talk about with that. I really enjoyed the fight. The stellar type thing was cool. The competitive implications of that are interesting because I'm sure that also shifted things around a lot with the
I don't
Pokemon.
know. I don't think it's actually that good for competitive.
I feel like there's certain plus sides to it, but there's a lot of drawbacks too. Yeah, I find that really interesting. I thought it was going to be like an all-powerful type that was only to Terapagos, but it's something that every Pokemon can have. And that's
and the big thing with Terra types is that they're mostly for defensive reasons when you use them competitively, and it doesn't really give you that much of a defensive boost.
Yeah.
So, like,
it doesn't throw the
example,
enemy off. Like, you have the same weaknesses.
Like if you're a fire type, you probably want to terrestrialize into like a grass type so that if you get hit by a water move, you resist it.
Or if you're a 4 times weak type, you could just become a 2 times weak type.
Exactly.
So yeah, it definitely has some drawbacks there. Was there anything else with I liked the crystal tree down there. I'm surprised it wasn't part of the story.
Not part of the story yet.
Yet? What are you saying?
Well, there's still the epilogue.
Oh, you're right.
My theory about the tree was always that it is for a certain peach.
Okay.
So
even
they might never confirm it, but there's a poster that shows that.
You think the peach grew from that tree?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because there's a picture of the peach in Heath's book.
Okay.
I think it makes total sense for it to have come from there.
So I was thrown off by the fact that it wasn't like focused on at all. It was kind of where you went to fight a terrestrial Pokemon and then you went back.
Yeah.
I found that weird, but I'm hoping that
and we don't even get the cutscene.
Yeah.
The one that we saw from the trailer. And that's why I'm thinking like,
that's going to be in the epilogue, you think?
Like, I don't know if it will be, because I know some people have gotten into the epilogue already, and they're like, don't get your hopes up, and I'm like, but I kind of want to get my hopes up, though.
Oh, okay.
So.
Interesting.
But I feel like it makes sense that the peach is probably from there.
Yes, I agree.
See.
Even if they don't say it overtly in the story, it might be implied by, just environmental storytelling. Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of evidence, I think, for it, so...
I believe it.
I think it's pretty likely.
I believe it. So, in that case, how do you feel about Terapagos' design?
So, this is a controversial thing. A lot of people don't like Terapagos' design. A lot of people think it looks really bulky, and they don't like that it stays small. I kind of am like, okay, yeah, I get it, I see it, but the lore implications of its design are so incredibly huge.
Of course, yeah.
That I'm like, I can't see how they could have designed it in any other way.
Oh, really? So, like, I personally
yeah.
could have used a little bit bigger. Just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, maybe larger, I guess. But they needed to have a turtle on a turtle on a turtle. They had to for the lore.
Right.
Because of turtles all the way down. So, like, they had to. Like, so that's where I'm at with it. But I understand why people are upset about the way it looks. What do you think of it?
I just think it's cute. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not looking at it from a lore story perspective. I think it fits that perfectly fine. You know, it's this like crystallized turtle Pokemon who has a transformation to where it can have every type available manipulated by it somehow. And I think that's cool. I like both of its designs actually in that regard. And I like how, you know, when you throw it out in the overworld, it's little cute innocent design, and then when you go into battle it changes to its more sturdy looking design, like it's ready to fight.
Yeah.
I just appreciate that with most Pokemon, and you know, this is another Pokemon that does that. So for me, I don't like how stiff its animations are for walking around in its base form.
Yeah. And it also transforms every time it attacks.
Wait.
Every time. When it crawls around as the little turtle, and then every single time it attacks, it transforms into its regular battle form. And then after it attacks, it transforms back into the little turtle.
Are you talking about when you go in and out of battle, or is there another scenario
when you do auto battles?
Oh, when you do auto battles. Okay.
And when you do regular
Interesting.
battles. Like any of it. When you use sync mode, it just turns into the like more like disc-like form.
Interesting.
When it battles.
I like that though. I think that's cool. I want to try that out and see what it looks like.
I'm okay with it, but I know a lot of people were like, I just want it to stay as the bigger form, and I'm like, the little form is cute.
Yeah, who doesn't like visual variation? I think it's really cool that it has two different forms that it switches between personally, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with it personally. I do think it's a little bulky, and I can understand it being a little small, especially compared to what people thought.
It's a little small.
Yeah.
Even I feel that way, and I like small Pokemon. But
yeah, it does seem a little oddly tiny.
Yeah. And how was it competitively? Do you know if it's good?
I haven't used it yet. I'm hoping to build mine for competitive soon.
Okay.
I don't know if it's that great or not.
Okay.
It can only be Stella Terra-type. Stellar. I always say Stella.
Because that's what that was the Japanese pronunciation. Stella.
Right.
Stella.
Yeah, I don't know if it's good or not. I have to try it out. But I have a feeling with only that Terra type as the option, that's actually hugely limiting.
Yes, I agree.
So.
And it doesn't really have anything special to go with it other than its like type manipulation ability, where it makes things less effective.
But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I feel like Ogerpon is the queen.
Yeah, Ogerpon is really good.
Competitive in a lot of ways.
I agree. I mean, I don't know much, but from what I can tell, I agree. Like, Ogerpon,
She's fun.
I could hardly beat the boss fight against Ogerpon. Like,
yeah.
Sure, that's a powered up version, but like, she was still, she showed her power.
Yeah, she's just bouncing around, hitting people.
Yeah.
You know, murdering thieves.
Yeah.
Thieves. Just a straight up little murderer that's joined my squad. No big deal.
So, for those of you watching,
not concerning at all.
For those of you watching, I hope that you have gotten to this next point that we're about to talk about, because this is even more spoilery than the spoilers we've already kind of spoiled, and that is a post-game sequence that you can unlock by doing just the right things in the game. You have to, meet certain circumstances for this cutscene to trigger. And Cayla, I think it would be better if you explain this.
Yep. Yeah, so if you guys haven't seen this ending cutscene that involves a certain white book, you get the white book that's Briar's book. You go to the crystal pool in Kitakami. There's a sign on that crystal pool that said that you could meet deceased relatives at that pool. And I had a whole theory, and I remember talking to you about it, about how I didn't think it was going to be deceased relatives. I thought it would be people from other universes set in other times, because your relatives could be alive in another universe that was set in another time. And if it's parallel enough, they would just seem like your relatives. So we bring Terapagos to the crystal pool, and Terapagos activates its ability, which is to blend two universes together. And we meet the professor from another universe that's set in the past compared to our universe. Yeah, super interesting. And the professor then confirms, like, oh, yeah, I'm working on a machine that connects universes that are in different times. I'm like, oh, really now? Cool. Okay, thanks for that little bit of lore. Cool. Yeah.
I just want to point out how many of your theories have been proven right in this game. You had these theories, a lot of them, but even before this game released. You had very in-depth explanations about certain things. You know, again, this biggest one, that especially that we're talking about right now, is the fact that there's not really any time travel in Pokemon except for with Celebi.
I'm starting to think that even Celebi might not be time travel.
Well, then there you go. So
after this, I'm starting to think that there is no direct time travel in Pokemon, that it's all multiversal. Because it's definitely starting to suggest that more and more.
You've been saying that for years, that it's only multiversal travel. And between Pokemon Legends and Sun and Moon and now Scarlet Violet, you know, it was really hinting towards that. And this final DLC solidified it with in-game text that says, by the professor who was supposed to have been time traveling to catch these paradox Pokemon, that it's separate universes that he's catching, or he or she are catching these Pokemon from.
Right.
And he knows it, he or she knows it too. They know that it's dimensional travel, not time travel.
I feel like Professor Sada and Turo are some of the most intelligent professors we've met, because they prioritize their intelligence over all of the people that they love. So, you know, sad way for that to be, but we can take their information and apply it to things, because, like, for example, the AI professor doesn't tell us all of the information about the machine, because the AI professor is mostly trying to use us as characters to stop the time machine. The AI professor doesn't need to tell us how it works. But when we meet Professor Sada or Turo as equal time travelers, like, hey, we're from the future, they're like, you are someone of value. I am going to tell you the things I know, because then you can tell me things that you know. And they literally treat it like a transaction. So we know that Sada Turo are the type of professors that use people to get what they want. And that's 100% what's going on. And that's why we're able to get that information from them then that we couldn't get before from the AI, which is, it's fascinating. They just make these characters they're so well thought out.
Yeah, I agree. And I wanted to ask you how you feel about this professor that we meet in this post-game scene. Yeah. They're from a different universe, right?
Yeah.
So the one from our universe is dead.
Right.
This one, do you think they're gonna die in their universe now? Do you think this might have changed anything?
Yes, I do, actually. I'm really excited about it.
Do you think this is what causes the death in every universe?
No.
Okay.
No. So that's the thing that people need to understand with Terapagos' terrestrial form. It's Turtles All the Way Down. So Turtles All the Way Down is a type of multiversal setup where there's this thing called infinite regress. So basically the idea of it is you've got a big turtle, and then on top of that turtle is another turtle, and then another turtle. But the thing with the turtles is that they're not equal size.
Okay.
They stand on top of each other, and they get infinitely smaller the further up you go, and infinitely bigger the further down you go.
Okay.
Right? So if you were thinking about the Pokemon multiverse before Scarlet and Violet, a lot of times you would think that the universes are equal. That if we travel from one universe to another, those events need to coincide across universes so that it all balances out into a time loop, right?
Right.
Where, like, okay, this person's universe goes and fixes it here and then goes back, but then somebody in that universe goes to another parallel universe and fixes it and goes back, right?
Right.
So it continuously fixes itself. But with Terapagos, we now know that in the Pokemon multiverse, it's not equal. So just because we fix it in another universe doesn't mean it gets fixed in the next one. And anytime we interact multiversally, it's not a loop.
Right. For sure.
It's unique.
Right.
So, for example, our universe, the universe that we all experience in Scarlet and Violet, the universes that we interact with could have totally different events. Like the universe with the past Paradox Pokemon, totally different from us. That's why we can have Suicune, Entei, Raikou as these forms. Totally different events. The future Paradox, same thing. They may never have had a regular Delibird there.
Right.
Who knows?
Right.
Could be totally different events. And so when we get the Scarlet and Violet book from Professor Sada and Turo, that universe is different. It's not going to be a circle. They will no longer have that book, which is different from our universe's
where we had it, right? We had it in our universe.
They had it. And that book is the key to activate the time machine.
Oh, so he's never going to activate it.
He probably will never be able to activate the time machine in that universe.
So he might not die. That particular
exactly.
Professor.
We may have saved Arvin's parents. Now,
just in that one timeline.
Did we save them in that one timeline?
Right.
But what happens if we can't activate the time machine? If they never activate the time machine, then Briar never writes her book. Right?
Right.
And if Briar never writes her book, then the Crystal Pool scene also doesn't happen in that universe.
Right, okay. So it doesn't
nobody
create an
in that
equal
universe interacts with another universe at that point in time.
Right.
Heath still would, though. So you already have, like, do you see how it's, like, not
because
equal?
Heath was before.
Yes, exactly.
But
it's not a circle.
Okay, but Heath was able to write that stuff because Heath was around the crystals, if I'm not mistaken, right?
No, Terapagos temporarily puts things in other universes or in other universes that are set in different times.
Okay.
So, like the professors temporarily. And now sometimes objects can be traded with Terapagos' power, like the book, but typically that requires like a purposeful action.
Huh. Interesting.
So like most things that go into the universe that transfer over go back afterwards.
Okay.
So it's like a temporary blending.
So I have two more questions for you.
Yeah.
One of them is, do you think Terapagos is the only Terapagos to exist in the multiverse?
Definitely not in the multiverse.
Okay.
That would be impossible. Because otherwise, how would the Sada Turo in our timeline have gotten the Briar's book?
Okay.
Yeah. So there has to be multiple.
Okay. So there has to be
Otherwise,
multiple
it doesn't really make
Terapagoses. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to think about that deeper later. But and then my second question is it had to do with there's a theory right now that, and I know that you don't believe this, but I want to get what your answer to this is.
Is it dream theory?
It's the theory that Terapagos or the crystals or something, it like reads your inner desires and shows you something from a parallel universe that has to do with that. And so like they thought that when you go to the crystal pool, you find Professor Turo because your Miraidon or Koraidon wanted to see them again. And there was a few things before, like people saw the Paradox Pokemon because they desired to see, crazy Pokemon from a different time that they wanted to catch. The professors wanted to see that or something.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that maybe Terapagos wants to make people happy and is doing its best to make people happy. But realistically, you could say that for any Pokemon that they typically want to help out most of the time. So I don't think that that's a power of Terapagos. I think that's a personality of Terapagos, potentially.
And do you think Terapagos knows what they want? Because, like, let's say, the people that see their ancestors or whoever there that they wanted to see and they see them.
I mean, if Terapagos is hanging out with the explorers that are going into Area 0 and sees them be like, oh, like, I hope we find something really cool down here. I wonder what's in the depths. Like, if Terapagos sees them and is like, oh, they want to find something cool? I'll make that happen. Yay! I don't think it's, like, very thought out. And I think a lot of people think it's, like, very, like, deeper than it is.
But what about...
I don't think so.
But this happens at the crystal pool. Like, people see ghosts, essentially, right?
Yeah.
And we talk to Turo, and it's an actual Turo, or Sada.
Yeah.
So but like before people were doing that, even without Terapagos there.
Yeah, then there's the crystals. I don't know. I mean, the crystals might have the ability to connect with other universes. Oh, sorry. My alarm. The crystals might have the ability to interact with other universes potentially. I'm not 100% sure. We don't have a lot of information on the crystals themselves. It seems like they're a sort of power source.
Okay.
A lot of stone, like crystals and rocks and gems, are power sources in Pokemon. It's very likely connected to infinity energy in some way.
Oh.
Well, I mean, most power sources in Pokemon are connected to infinity energy. Pokemon themselves are, like, made of infinity energy mostly, so it makes sense that it probably is. A lot of multiversal things are connected to infinity energy, so it's entirely possible that these crystals just harness infinity energy in such a way that it allows us to see different things from the multiverse, like similar to Terapagos' power. It's also possible that Terapagos, being like a tiny crystal that turns into a turtle, is somehow like related to the crystal. Like, are the crystals just a different form of Terapagos?
Yeah, how are they connected exactly? That's interesting. Because when we found Terapagos, it was like a little shell embedded in the crystal.
Right.
Which was really interesting. But yeah, that's like a whole another deep dive, I feel like.
Yeah, that's
to
a
explain
can
all
of
that.
worms.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't really explain the crystals very well. It does show them that they degrade over time unless they're given the right circumstances. Because we see crystals go from amber to green to rainbow, or well, technically rainbow to green to amber,
right.
the other way,
Yep.
as they decay. So
Yeah.
we see that, but
That's in the professor's research lab, right? That we've seen that?
Professor's research lab, we also see it in the terrarium, the orb. If you go there before you beat the teal mask, it's an orange color. Because you can go there. Yeah, it's an orange color if you go there before you beat it. I know, one of the people in my comments pointed it out. And then it's green after you beat the teal mask, because Briar says, oh, I found something to stabilize the thing, right? She found stuff to turn it green. And then at the end, it's rainbow, because she was able to get certain things from there. Turn it rainbow.
I noticed that it changed color, and I was like, wait, I swear, I didn't know that. I thought maybe I was crazy. Wow.
No, and it's the same as the crystals in the lab, too. It's the same color change, so.
Oh my god, that's so cool. What a nice detail. I love that.
I know. So subtle. So nice.
I gotta say, especially after these DLC, this is going down as one of the, if not, one of the best Pokemon games ever made, in my opinion.
Wow, I'm so glad that you came back to these games and really like gave them another chance, because I know at first there was a lot of difficulties with playing it and the way that the games were structured, like technically.
Well, they just needed to fix that memory leak, and they did. That was the thing. That was the game changer.
I'm so glad they did, because there's so much in this game that makes it worth playing. And it's so sad that things like that could stop people like you from enjoying it, because I know how much you love Pokemon.
Yeah, it stopped a lot of people, and I'm having to convince people now. I'm like, they fixed the memory leak, guys. Now
Yeah.
go back and play it because sure, it doesn't run perfect still, but it at least runs steady enough to where it doesn't constantly crash. It's not going to make you motion sick, this and that, right? So
Yeah.
it's a huge step up in that regard. And then now that I was able to play the game for what it is, which I always knew that there was a good game underneath that, I just couldn't interact with it. There was it's like trying to play something, but there's like a wall in front. You can't get your hands on it. You know what I'm saying? Now I can get my hands on the thing behind the wall.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how different it feels to play it now as like an experience. And it's so fulfilling. And I'm like, I can't believe this is the same game that was so unfulfilling before, but now it's fulfilling. And especially after this DLC, like it really feels like this character you've been playing as, whoever you crafted in your copy of Scarlet and Violet, is probably the most skilled, talented, and important trainer we've ever played as in a Pokemon game.
The most important person in the whole world.
It really does feel like that. Like it feels like...
you feel like somebody important, but you also feel like somebody who's had to take on a big burden. You're Frodo. You're Frodo from Lord of the Rings.
Sure, that's who you are.
Yeah.
I don't know the reference.
You're somebody important who takes on a burden. If you know Lord of the Rings, people will know.
You're the
They'll
Slayer.
look
We'll go with my Buffy the Vampire Slayer analogy.
Exactly.
You're the
same
Slayer.
Same thing. You're the Slayer.
You're the
there
most
we go.
important person in all the land.
You're Harry Potter.
You're Bayonetta.
Luke Skywalker.
You're
Magic protagonist number 5.
It really feels like you're the most important trainer we've ever played as, and this feels like one of the highest stakes games in this series, and it was just done so well. The game itself feels so full and complete, and like there's still so much to do, even though I've beaten most of the stuff, but there's still more to do. Like I still have a whole legendary I have to find on the map from the base game. And I still have that tournament to finish. There's also like the past legendaries that you can catch in the overworld. I haven't even gotten to that yet, but like that's a thing.
Oh, there's so many things to do.
Yeah.
There's so many things to do.
There's so many, like you can sync with your Pokemon. No one asked for it, but here it is.
We were like, oh, okay, cool.
Literally just like cherries on top of having such a full and complete game. It's really wonderful. And like, I hope they don't release another. I said this with Legends too. And the same goes for this. It's like, guys, stop. Let us enjoy these games for a while because they will keep us busy and fulfilled for a while. Take time to make the next game. And we'll happily wait for the next one because these games are phenomenal. Like between Legends and Scarlet Violet, like this last generation was so phenomenal to play through. Like I really want to just hold on to them for a while with nothing shiny and new trying to take its place. I just want to hold on to these as like the shiny thing that we have at the moment.
And meanwhile, I'm hoping for Black and White 1, Black and White 2, and Black and White 3.
Let me turn this off now. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, well, I gotta go to bed. So.
That is true. So, I mean, we will talk next time about our hopes and aspirations for the epilogue, which would be a fun conversation. We're going to hope to do that this week. But regardless, after that, we're going to talk about the future of Pokemon, and we can talk about, Black 3, White 3, whatever it is you want to talk about, and things that I want to talk about too, which is also kind of Black 3, White 3, but there's more too that we want to talk about. So comment, be part of the conversations. Like, let's just have a good time and vibe together over some Pokemon and whatever other games we want to talk about too.
Thank you guys for watching, and yeah, I'm super excited for everything that Pokemon is doing right now. Bye.
I did that really bad. Bye.